News stories I thought were interesting. Trump has been running on a campaign of putting huge tariffs on Chinese vehicles, and this appears to be necessary. The Biden administration is going to do it too. 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, which apparently is really necessary. I've seen several news reports recently saying that the Chinese electric vehicles are wonderful, cheaper, and better than what you can get here. And they say the only reason Tesla survives is because they punish you for getting Chinese vehicles here. Apparently, in addition to the tariff, if you actually somehow manage to import one, you cannot get it licensed to drive on the road. You have to drive it only on closed property. So the legal barriers are enormous, and they have to be apparently, because apparently the Chinese EVs are technically much superior. I just learned about Perplexity AI, which seems to be the logical replacement for Google. It does search, and it does it through a variety of AI engines, and it gives you sources. So if you say, if I can figure out how to get to the crazy, ask my first questions. Well, I would like to do that. There, ask anything. Okay. How good are Chinese EVs compared to Teslas? And the thing about it is it gives you the sources right here, just like a normal search engine, and then it gives you the AI-generated answer, and apparently it is using a whole series of different AI engines, OpenAI and Google's one and the other ones, and calculating this, so you're getting AI-generated data that hopefully is more verifiable, and this is, of course, the big issue. So you get both kinds of search, the old kind of search here where you can look things up, and the new AI-generated search. And there's a free version. I don't know quite what you get out of the pay version, but anyway, this thing looks pretty good. I'm thinking I may make this my default search engine from now on because it's becoming impossible to get anything good out of Google, which everyone else is noticing. Anyway, and here's one of these articles, Inside EV, saying, went to China and drove the cars, Western automakers are cooked. By the way, I remember living through the last one of these in the 60s and 70s and 80s really. The same thing happened. The Western automakers were cooked because the Japanese cars were much better. And you just have to be crazy to buy an American car that would run poorly, use too much gas, and just break down on you. I read the Consumer Reports, and I got a Toyota, and Consumer Reports said you'll never have to fix a Toyota, and I'm driving a 97 Toyota, and I've never broken down. So they're right about that. And I don't think that would have happened if I had a Ford or a Chevy. Although, to be fair, Toyotas are now made in America, mostly, and Ford and Chevy is mostly made in Mexico, I think. Anyway, that's why I say the logical way around this, which hasn't happened yet, but it's what the business blogs are saying, is these Chinese companies should open an American subsidiary and make those cars here so they can sell them. That would probably be the logical thing to do. That's what Toyota did. There was some resistance. What's that? They already have?
But the U.S. government banned Chinese investments.
Yes, I'm not surprised. I mean, this is just straight protectionism. We have strayed very far from our old ideals of like free market and stuff.
You ban the Chinese investment inside U.S. and try to convince Mexico to ban the Chinese investment in Mexico.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. That would be another way to do it, would be to like make them in Mexico and import them there, go around. Yep. Anyway, so Apple and Google both plan to block ads. Google is removing third-party cookies from Chrome, and they're making a new thing called the Privacy Sandbox, and it would have been live very soon, but the EU claimed that this would screw up the profit model of most European websites, and Google didn't have the authority to do that single-handedly because that was an abuse of monopoly power. And so under the new internet regulations in Europe, they've delayed it by a year. So that's not going to happen until I think 2026 or maybe later. Apple also plans to put ad blockers in Safari, and again, the British newspapers are warning them that they will probably sue and block this on the grounds that this undercuts the revenue model of the newspaper sites in Britain, which is certainly true. So it is an interesting issue. I mean, third-party cookies are the heart of the whole surveillance capitalism scheme, which Google created and exploited and made all their money from, but now they're moving away from it as the privacy consequences become harder and harder to support, and there's more and more pressure for actual privacy legislation, which we do not have in America, but they have more and more of in Europe. So we'll see how this all works out. But the fact is, this is, I think, why Scott Galloway, the podcaster, always says they just need to break up the big companies. They're all monopolies. They're all far too powerful. And that seems to be a well-justified case, that just a few big companies like Amazon, Google, and Apple pretty much control everything. And that's just what the anti-monopoly laws were supposed to prevent. But the corruption of our system prevents it. The rich companies are allowed to pay for lobbyists and bribe people in Congress into blocking all attempt to do anything about it, although the new FTC chair, Lena Khan, is being quite successful at pushing through considerable lawsuits, so we'll see. So people got real mad about this article. Some people greatly disagreed. I certainly do agree with this article. I've been saying it for a while. For the last year, Microsoft has been in the amazing, I would say, unprecedented position of actually being a technological industry leader. Microsoft has not had very good products in decades, but they're way ahead of everybody at AI, which is an amazingly wise choice. By funding OpenAI and closely partnering with them and staying effectively partnering with them even when they went through a serious crisis, Satya Nadella has steered Microsoft into a position where they are the dominant leaders in AI. And as far as I know, they're the only company with an AI product that you pay for that's worth buying right now that actually does something good, which is Copilot, which is quite popular. So I think Microsoft I think it's very fair to compare it to the iPhone. They have a product that everybody wants, and which is alone. There's no competitor that can come close to what it does. So they have a chance to make a pile of money now, especially if they continue to innovate, which they're doing. Google has tripped and stumbled and fallen behind. Like I say, Google search is disappointing me lately. Google hasn't cleaned up the spam out of the email. All the Google Mail does now is throw away the good stuff and leave the spam in there. They just seem to have been resting on their laurels and not improving their products at all for several years now. And other companies like Microsoft are taking their lunch, which is surprising because 3 years ago I would have said Microsoft is the king of the stodgy corporate bureaucracy that can't innovate and is just stuck doing useless things like moving all the buttons around to hide everything from us in Windows for no apparent reason, which is mostly what they do. But they're right about AI. So there's a medicine that regrows teeth in rats, and now it is entering human trials. I think this is awesome. I sure don't like going to the dentist. I would rather regrow the teeth. And apparently that is possible, and human trials are beginning, so maybe in 10 years it'll actually be available for humans. If it works, that would be great. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.